Hey, welcome to another episode of Club Deportes en Inglés. I'm your host, The Smash, Justin Simmons, and it's a really big episode. And I mean that literally here today, as it is episode number 5. Everybody's feeling fine because Austin FC put another one in the W corner. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. We're also going to talk about Champions League, what transpired during that. And then we're also going to talk about is one of my favorite times of the year, Cinco de Mayo. So that means it is fight week. I got my boy Eddie Cross coming on from 104.9 The Horn to talk a little bit about the fights that are coming up. But before we get started, I do have to give a big thanks to my friend Jerome Cotonavi for joining me here last week on Club Deportes en Inglés, as we talked a little bit about Austin FC and Champions League then. But today, like I said, big show, as I have tons of guests, and even my mascot knows that it's going to be a huge show here today because I have the one, the only. You can hear him on 104.9 on Sunday mornings. He is the Wags himself, Dr. Wagner.
Dr. Wagner, I love it.
Adam Wagner.
Dr. Wagner, where you come to my clinic, we teach you how to successfully gamble your money. Adam Wagner, the host of the Wagner Wire on 104.9, 101.9 AM 1260. You can stream it live at hornfm.com every Sundays 9 to noon. Go ahead and make sure you join me and my co-host Isaiah Collier, and my producer Sam Piga when we just bring you all the ins and outs of the sports realm. It's a fantasy-centric show, so we do focus a lot on fantasy sports, but. Yeah. We cover the entire sports realm. We like to say that we're the 4 pillars of fantasy sports, or not just 4 pillars of fantasy sports, but the 4 pillars of life, because we focus on video games, which every one of us found video games, right, during this pandemic, or we found something to find a sanctuary in. Myself just happened to be video games. We also focus on movies, so we can geek out and nerd out to like the Marvel Cinematic Universe and stuff like that. We talk about music, and then we also talk about sports, the 4 pillars of life.
A full lifestyle brand.
It's a morning show, baby.
That's what I like about the show, and I know you've had me on there as well, so I always appreciate it. And I'm glad that you can jump on here on Club Deportes en Inglés. Also joining us here today, we have another special guest from We Are Austin TV, is the one Erick Morales. Erick, thank you for joining us here on Club Deportes en Inglés. I know sometimes we speak the Español, but we do it both here, just like We Are Austin TV.
Thanks for having me, Justin. We really got to be here, man. Looking forward to this since you brought it up, so I'm glad to be here.
Hey, tell us a little bit about We Are Austin TV, what you guys are doing. I know I've seen you guys on the road. I think some of you guys were traveling to Denver. I know I've seen a lot of fan reaction videos posted, because I know I was at the same party you guys were at for Los Verdes and getting some of the reaction when we beat, sorry, it goes off the top of my head right here, but when we won 3-1 in Colorado.
Right. Yeah. So, We're Austin. What we do is we try to get fan reactions. That's really our goal, and what the page was built around is we want to capture that raw reaction from real fans. So when you go on TV, you watch ESPN, you see all these reporters, and they talk all this fancy talk, and they get real analytic with it, and sometimes as a fan, it can get a little boring. So we try to bring another side of content, another side of media, to where we get more of a real reaction from really anyone that's willing to just give us their opinion.
Yeah.
We also cover, so we cover the games ourselves on our podcast, Top Flight. We get a little bit into detail with it, but yeah.
Yeah, just trying to bring the fun back into like the whole overseeing of football. And what I was telling some who runs your Twitter and such, I think it's Hernan who runs your Twitter, it really gives me a big Copa 90 feel, some of those Derby days. And I know you guys are just kind of getting started with those type of videos, but you guys have been shooting content for a while. So I'm looking forward to, as you guys continue to grow, because I'll get right back to you, Erick. We have one more guest I have to introduce, and then we're going to get into our Austin FC talk here in just a moment. But I have one more guest, and from the Austin Anthem joining me is Ben Stahl. Ben, thank you for jumping on board on what is a packed ship, but it's going to be a fun ride. So thank you again for jumping on.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I'm glad to be here and talk Austin FC and soccer.
Yeah, and obviously Austin FC has just basically swept up everybody here in the ATX and pretty much almost around the world. Every time I'm looking at Twitter, I see there's a fan club that has popped up in the UK, in Ireland. You see him in Mexico. You see him in Canada. And that green, that verde and black, it continues to grow here all over. And it seems to be one of the hottest properties in MLS. Let me ask you guys before we get into the recap of the game from last week in that win. Let me start with you, Wags. How has everything hit for you? You know, we just really got started. We've really just entered a nice flow of games. We've already 3 games in, week 4 coming up. How has this team performed so far to you?
Well, it's been a short sample so far, Justin, but to me, I like what I see so far. There's been a little bit of, I guess, reservation on my part, you know, to say and you know, make the proclamation that we're a tier 1 team just yet. I mean, it's still a small range. We're coming, you know, basically into week 4 of the MLS. So for me, you know, in other words, to say that we're a dominant team, I got to pump the brakes on that just yet. Especially, I have a lot of reservation when, you know, you go up to Minnesota and a team that has, you know, only 1 goal and then, you know, 7 to the bad, you know, going into that contest. You should have scored maybe 3, maybe 4. I mean, the chances were there. Don't get me wrong. The opportunities were there for Austin FC.
Okay.
But I just, you know, I have a little bit of pause, a little bit of reservation to say that we're a dominant club just yet. But man, we do. I mean, with the opportunities there, we do look very well kept.
Let me ask you, Ben, how are you feeling about the start to this club? Obviously, part of the Anthem, very excited, Ben. What would you say to how this club has started? Have they met your expectations thus far?
Expectations being what they are, just being a big team right now, I think we're good. I mean, we're getting, you know, 6 points at 9. That's a great start to the season. I would say, you know, continue with Wagner. Like, I am cautious of how we're going to go. I think, you know, we'll see later in the season when the games start to pile up. Do we have the depth? Do we have the scoring? That sort of thing. I think, you know, the opportunities were there again. That we had the opportunities. We hit the post a couple times. So, you know, Diego Fagundez is great scoring right now, but can he get it to, you know, June, July, August, into the deep ends of the end of the season? But, you know, right now, I'll take the 6 points. I'm not going to complain.
What about you, Eric? What do you think about the start for Austin FC? 3 games in, 1 loss, 2 victories, and both of those victories in a row.
Right. Yeah. As far as the start, everything to me is looking pretty solid. I mean, kind of with Wags here, I can't really say we're going to be a dominant team yet, but it's definitely going in the right direction, especially with back-to-back wins. And then also, I mean, just overall, the team is just looking really good, really solid. There's definitely some depth in the team. So that's just something excited to look forward to, you know, who's going to start the next game, because they're all looking pretty good, pretty solid right now.
It's funny that you say that because it does seem that there's still a lot of competition on this team who can be in the starting 11. I think there are very few players that you can say really are everyday starters. But let's go into a little bit of the recap from the game. I know we kind of already laminated on it somewhat, but I think we can give it a thorough brushing. So let's pull up the first graphic and let's just give you what the scoring line was going against Minnesota United. As you see there, Diego Fagundez scoring in his second game. It ended up being the game winner early on here on match day 3, 1-0 in Minnesota. Now, I think you guys would agree with this, that one of the more interesting aspects of this game is, yes, they scored early and we kept our first clean sheet. What says you? Who wants to take this one first, Adam?
I'll take it. So, I mean, coming into this, you know, we knew the just, you know, the dominant of this team, like where the stalwarts were going to be was in the midfield, right, with Pochettino and with Alex Ring, you know, being just such a ferocious engine that he is, just constantly covering so much of the pitch. You knew that was the dominant part in us being able to control the mid-third of the field, right? But now you're seeing the back line. You're seeing Beasler come over. I mean, you're seeing the veteran tenacity of this guy already, and just the poise of him, right? Getting that back line just in sync and where it has to be. And it's really, it's played dividends and paid dividends to Stuver there to enabling him to get a clean sheet, the first clean sheet in Austin history, man.
Well, it's good to have Papa Beasler back in starting 11, and he was a big reason. I think one of the guys that doesn't get talked a lot about the success for this team is Romagna. I know he had the yellow card. If you were grading the game, I wasn't trying to do it too hard. I know that most people would probably, take away points because of the yellow, but I don't think that affected his overall performance. He really did. When Austin was in some tight jams, even Stuver had a mishap throwing the ball. He was there to make the covers and to make those last-minute saves to make sure that there was nothing on goal. So one of the better players. That defense has looked really solid considering that we have a brand new left back in Kolmanich. But Ben, I would like to get your thoughts on so far. How have they played, especially against Minnesota United?
I'm just going to go out and say defense wins championships. We got to have a solid D. We got to have the wing backs with Kolmanich and Lima push up the field. That being said, we're going to play out from the back. Stuver's going to have to play well on his feet. We're going to have Cascante, Romagna, and Beasler just able to be, with pressure, just distribute that ball going forward. We can't always rely on Alex Ring making that 25-yard sprint back to go tackle someone from behind. I think we have a good starting step, starting right now. There's stepping stones we got to continue with. I think at the end of the day, if we continue to have some clean sheets against the lower competition, the Minnesotas, the Kansas Cities, maybe even Real Salt Lake looking forward, keep those clean sheets up, we'll be good going forward, have a defensive core that we can really rely on.
Eric, you feel real solid about our defense like everybody else here seems to feel about the defense?
Step it up from the preseason. During preseason, they're looking a little shaky. A few mistakes there, especially in the center back area. But they definitely toned it up. They're definitely looking really good. They look good against Colorado. Look pretty solid against Minnesota. So, yeah.
Let me talk to my producer real quick. Leo, let me get those stats graphic up. Thank you. Okay, as you see, we go in a little in-depth FIFA style here. 13 shots on goal by this, or 13 shots taken, 4 shots on goal by this Austin FC team. Now, one of the things that has really plagued me about their play thus far early on is that, like Wags was saying, while there have been some chances around the net, they haven't taken too many, and I think that showed here against Minnesota United. You saw some good movement in the final third. It doesn't show on these stats. You see the pass accuracy, 84%. The possession is good, but a lot of the times it can be empty possession. Their percentage when it comes to pass accuracy has been flailing in the attacking half, and it really goes down in the attacking third. And it doesn't matter who wants to take this first, but would you agree that they passed up a lot of opportunities on net, especially in the second half against Minnesota, because they could have easily been up 2-0, 3-0, and I felt that they were passing too much inside the 18.
Gentlemen, I'll go first here again. It's just, to me, I think we're all seeing that, right? But, I think it just comes down to a chemistry type of thing for us, right? Like, again, this is what they got maybe 7 games under their belt between all of them, but between, just the being able to go through practice rounds. They were
practicing at St. Edwards.
Exactly. So I think a lot of that is with chemistry and coming on. I think we'll see a lot of that in when they get to mid form, right? Like we still haven't seen the best from LAFC or the best from the Sounders yet. So of course we're holding our club, of Austin FC up to high standards, and rightfully so. It's a good feeling, right? It's a good problem to have.
What do you think, Ben?
I'm cautious about it only because I don't think Danny Houston's the striker we need for that. I think he's a good quality sub. He can't play 90 minutes. He can't hold the ball up. He can't distribute the way we need for him to do. Cecilio, Redes, maybe Jared Stroud, even Gallagher, they're pressure players. They're going to play on the front foot. They're going to push the defense behind them. Danny just doesn't hold the ball up to distribute to that. I think we need to figure out who can and maybe bring in a DP in the summer that we can really build this team around and have a solid attacking core.
Yeah, right now it looks like the midfield and the defense is the strong suit of this team. What do you have to say about that, Eric?
Yeah, definitely agree there with you with the midfield. Midfield is looking really solid.
But is even Pochettino solid? Because I know he's been a little shaky. And even Redis, he hasn't started consistently. I know he's not a midfielder, but he's up top, and we expected a little bit more. He looked better off of the bench this last game, but it still hasn't been consistent.
Right. Yeah. With Redis, we were kind of talking about it on our podcast, and how Jared Stroud is definitely picking that position right there. Pooch is still looking a little shaky, but overall, I think if you got Alex Ring and either Fagundes or Pereira, both looking really great. I think you got your midfield pretty solid. As far as the Danny Husen situation, got to agree with Ben. Definitely, we should look into getting making our DP signing a striker here, because it's definitely missing some shooting boots up there. Our goals haven't come from our strikers at all. Maybe play start Gallagher, see how that goes. But definitely we need a switch there for sure.
Let me ask everybody this. If it's not going to be Hosen, who actually did lead them in scoring during the preseason, and he was the catalyst for them going up 1-0. It was his pass before the pass that led to the assist that led to that goal. If not Hosen, who else you'll see the goal here, who else could Austin FC target that would be favorable to you that would fulfill this position? Would it be somebody that's a little bit older, somebody that's coming like from maybe Europe and that's in their 30s, that plays more of a slower pace up top, but can distribute better, or are you wanting to replace Hosen with somebody younger? I know that Hosen is in his 30s as it is, but there's still some like a Sergio Aguero. I'm not saying he's coming to MLS. It would be nice if it would be sooner rather than later, but I don't think he's coming to Austin FC anytime soon. Or would you rather see somebody younger? What do you think?
I don't think we need to make knee-jerk reactions just as of yet. I think that the club's been assembled and it's been good so far. I think maybe instead of going out and looking to sign just another DP player, which seems to be the area where the avenue what we need to explore. But right now, I think we need to address what we have, or address the problems with the solutions that we have. And we kind of touched on it just a little bit earlier, right? Why not Gallagher? Gallagher's looked great in the minutes that he's been on the field. He's a very, he applies that pressure, just being on the back shoulder of the center backs there. He just knows how to continue to enable us to have a lot of good offensive attack prowess on it. And I don't know why he doesn't, I'm not sure when he gets into the starting 11, but it would be nice to see him up there with Dominguez a little bit.
He is definitely making his way towards getting those regular minutes in the starting 11. Ben, what says you? Who do you foresee starting this coming week in the starting 11 up top? We already have an idea who's going to be in the defense and obviously who's going to be in goal in the midfield, but who do you want to see up top and who do you want to see in the more attacking roles?
I want to see Stroud and Gallagher. I don't think it's going to happen. You look at how Wolf wants to play at the back, most possession. You need a strong striker that has quality up front. That being said, Gallagher is great off the bench. Can he give you 75, 80 minutes? I don't think he can. I think he will come June, July, but his performance level is just not there with what he has. The character set that he is, he's going to play 25 minutes. He's just going to sprint. He's going to go after the ball, apply that pressure. Danny Houston, as much as I don't think he's the guy going forward, he's what we have right now. Maybe you play Redis as a false 9 and you stop playing that big, lengthy striker 6'5" plus up top.
Right.
You start playing more possession style, tiki-taka, kind of like a Barcelona, Real Madrid when they were good back in the 2000s sort of thing. But I don't think we're going to we're not going to get a DP this summer that's going to be a striker. I just don't see Wolf and I don't see Reyna just doing that knee-jerk reaction sort of thing right now. We're only 3 games in. Maybe by the end of May we'll have a consideration of we need to make sure that our back line is more solid. Our midfield might need more, someone else other than Pochettino and Ring. Because I think that's where I'm looking at it and saying we don't have depth in the midfield that we can go if one of those guys gets injured. I just don't see it right now.
Yeah, you're right. It seems like I don't know if that's all right. So far, the way they have been playing has been all right. And the midfield's been strong. But yes, other than Ring, if he went down with an injury and it's still a long season, I don't know who would be next in line to replace him. And that would definitely change the way that Austin FC would have to play. Let me ask you real quick here, Eric, before we move on. How do you foresee the starting 11, especially the guys up top for this weekend?
Even though Husen has kind of been absent here lately, I still see him starting definitely. I would love to see Gallagher start someday. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but he definitely has that presence that where he just pressures so much, and he's definitely going out there. He looks hungry. But other than that, I still see Husen starting. I see Stroud starting as well, and then Dominguez up top.
All right, it seems like a pretty solid pick. I mean, it seems kind of how things are going. Again, long season to be had, but they have looked good so far. Last question before we move on to our Champions League talk, everyone. And Wags, I'm going to start with you. Prediction for Sunday. Who's walking away with the W, and what is the final score going to be?
I think it's a 1-0 contest, and the good guys take it.
1-0, good guys take it.
I think we have another clean sheet. I think we go back-to-back weeks with clean sheets.
Is that satisfying for you for a team that was promised to be free-flowing football?
I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, I think, beggars can't be choosers at this point. I mean, with just a short campaign and a small sample size, with the club just finding out, kind of their identity, the club's identity. And right now, it seems like it's built based off of good build up through, through the back, and then, and dominating through the middle third of the field, and then, hopefully trying to get a goal or two off of some set pieces here. I mean, I'd love to see a lot more goals while the ball's in play. We've had our chances. We've had a lot of opportunities, hitting the post a couple of times, especially up in Minnesota. You like what we've had. But if we can build off of this momentum here, taking it into Nashville, then, yeah, I think it's going to look good.
Ben, let me hear your prediction before you leave us for the rest of the show.
Going 2-1, Austin FC wins. It's an ugly win. We're good, but Kansas City is injured right now. We're going to take it home. But I'm going to go off what Wag said. We're playing a lot of away games. We can't continue losing these games. We have to continue the pressure of just winning as much as we can in the front of the season. And when we get home games, we're going to be there. We're going to just be there for the players. The fans are going to bring the atmosphere, what Austin's really about. And I'm hoping, we'll get more and more people want to go to these away games. We'll bring Austin, maybe, Verde Nashville. We'll see how that works.
And excuse me, I misspoke, Justin. I did say Nashville, but I meant to say Kansas City, absolutely.
Well, it is funny, though, that you do mention that. We're going on the road. There is another game added on the road, so now it will be 8 games played. But this is not unprecedented in MLS history. Coincidentally, when Sporting KC were getting their new park built, they played their first 11 games on the road. So we can complain, but we can't complain that much. Let me hear it from you, Eric. What do you think the weekend's going to bring for Austin on Sunday? Some joy or some sadness?
I think we're gonna keep riding that train, that joy train. So I see us coming out with the 3-1. Kansas for sure has been doesn't really have an issue scoring, I believe. They're gonna make us suffer a little bit, but I feel like once we get our first goal, and it's just gonna be a similar situation with what happened in Colorado.
All right, so it seems that everybody's thinking that Austin FC is going to pull it out. It's another one. I don't know why the producer's thinking that they're not going to win so far. 2 wins on the road. I'd like what they call a winning streak. It could possibly be 3, and this might be the team to do it against Sporting KC. They're not looking too good right now. They're hurting. If the playoffs were to start today, let's take a look at that MLS table if we can bring it up. But if the playoffs were to start today, you would see Austin would be ranked number 4. All right. We would be sitting pretty, and Sporting KC would be sitting in 10th place. As you see, there are ones across the board. 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss on the year. I really do like our chances with the way and the momentum the way it is. Hopefully everybody can stay healthy. Josh Wolf, who's just coming off of a Coach of the Week accolade for the MLS, is hoping that he can get back on and keep the tactics going. And we have one more graphic as we can see the Team of the Week from this week. And as you see, our boy Alex Ring, the captain, getting the nod, and rightfully so. As you can tell, he has been playing so well. And I mean, if anything happened to Alex Ring, this team would be in a lot of trouble. I really thought that maybe we had seen his best years in MLS, and that's why New York FC was willing to let him go in the draft and in the expansion draft. And instead, he has been as good as advertised, if not better.
Well, if there's any city that can reinvigorate your career, it's Austin, right? So,
it's the queso, right?
Absolutely, man.
It's the queso.
All right. Is our
it's the queso. It's the verde. It's the beer. It's the fine liquor that is made here. It is Austin, Texas. It does wonders for everybody's career, and so far the team is looking great. So that's going to do it for Austin FC Talk, though. I want to thank Ben for joining us here today. Ben, thank you again for joining us for the Austin FC Talk. Ben Stahl, part of the Austin Anthem.
Thank you guys for having me.
Well, we're going to move on in our conversation here on Club Deportes in Inglés because, oh, baby, this is what I've been waiting for this entire show. It is time to review the Champions League. Yes, and my team finally made it. They finally made it. They are going to the final. Manchester City, baby. They just are walking all over the competition. I never would have believed it in my wildest years that they would get this far and not fail. And not fail. You see it happen all the time. This is like, if you've been a City fan, wherever you join, you know the history of Manchester City. But let's pull up that graphic for the Champions League. We have the scores from the last 2 days. In leg 2, you will see the final score between Liverpool and Chelsea, and you will see the final scores between Manchester City and PSG. If it doesn't pull up, it doesn't matter. PSG getting trounced. No Mbappe yesterday, and that really hurt their chances. He was on the bench, or I say yesterday, I mean Tuesday. But in the semifinal for Chelsea and Real Madrid, a little beef between you two boys. Erick, a Real fan.
You're creating the beef. I like Erick just fine.
I mean, not personal beef. It's more like team beef because you're one of those Chelsea Blues wags, and I can celebrate here all day, and I'm going to carry that celebration on here in a little bit. But let's review your guys' match first. Erick, how are you feeling?
Are you all right, Erick?
Yeah. Do you need help? Do you need somebody to talk to? Because I know Zidane. He's been under a lot of stress. You guys got Ramos back for that match. I really, really wanted Madrid to be in the final just so City could beat the biggest team possible. But how do you see it going for Madrid? What happened there?
Definitely outplayed. Chelsea just brought it to us, man, and we did not really know how to react to it. We were playing some weird formation that wasn't really working with us. Didn't switch it up at all. And just Chelsea was just outstanding. Both legs, actually. So shout out Chelsea.
How frustrated were you? Were you like how I get sometimes? I'm standing at the TV, I'm pulling out my hair, I'm yelling things that I won't repeat here. Although you can cuss if you want. You feel free to do so. It wasn't a well-played game if you were a Real Madrid fan. I know a lot of people that say Hala Madrid, and I felt bad for them. I saw them on Twitter. They were so disappointed in this performance. I mean, were you hurt by the way that they played?
This is a safe place, Erick.
It did hurt a little bit, just because knowing of how well they performed before in the Champions League, it's a little disappointing. And I mean, I think honestly, semifinals are just the worst to get out of. I mean, you're so close to reaching the final, and you just you just don't make it. And so it's real disappointing. It's a bad feeling, but at least we still have La Liga run. So we still have something to look forward to. Next season Champions League.
Erick, can I ask you something real quick? Do you feel like the dominance of European football is that really was kind of just pioneered and led by Real Madrid over the past decade here? Do you feel like that's coming to an end?
It does. I do have that feeling. It's a little hard to accept, but just looking at the performances from just within the last 3 years, it hasn't really been all great. I mean, we've exited, I think, like 2 years during the round of 16, which is just horrible. I mean, last season I think we got out quarterfinals, so it's not getting any better. The team's still looking a little shaky. So yeah, I mean, it hurts me to say, but it seems like those good old days, those glory days are coming to an end here.
Let me ask you this. Is Real Madrid, I mean, they're nothing more than Cristiano Ronaldo? I mean, because that team just really dropped off. And I get it, they're a little older in the midfield. But if my producer, Leo, if you can bring up this one special picture I have for you, how did you feel as a fan seeing your big signing, the guy that's supposed to replace Cristiano, CR7, doing this, chilling with his homies after the game, after they lost the Champions League semifinal to go to the final? It's a really sad show for this Real Madrid fans.
I've seen that picture all over Twitter, and it just hurts me every single time. And you go to the semifinal to win. You don't go to the semifinal to see your old buddies. I mean, probably most of his teammates that he played with aren't even on the team, or probably didn't even start. So really, you go to win. You don't go to hang out with your buddies, have a good laugh right after you lose. So it's real disappointing to see.
Well, let me talk to the winner, since I'm going to be seeing you in the final. Wags, how does it feel to see Chelsea go through such a tumultuous year where they had Frank Lampard, you thought they were going to get it done, they fire him midway through, Thomas Tuchel comes in, the American Christian Pulisic seems to be the real deal. Tell me more, Wags. Tell me more.
Well, first, can we go back? Leo, can we please pull that graphic back up of Hazard being clowned on by his last club? I just found it even so much sweeter. The fact that this used to be one of my favorite players, probably was my favorite player, world-class winger, leaves the club, and then goes back over to what he thinks is going to be a great run of success, a continued run of success with Real Madrid, and rightfully so, right? Everybody, that's kind of the landing destination where you want to.
He was on the cover of FIFA, Wags.
Right. No, I get it.
He was on the cover of FIFA, and he left Chelsea as the top player in the Prem. Yes. That's like the best league in the world. So yeah, he's got the big money. And how do you feel as a guy that roots for Chelsea, seeing this dude not win it
Really good.
At Stamford Bridge?
Really good. Not to just be petty, not to be like Kobe Bryant petty here, but I mean, especially when, again, like you followed Courtois, you thought that your dominance would be lasting, everlasting, with Real Madrid, but it looks like the young, youthful talent that is coming on to Stamford Bridge, the boys from the Bridge, it looks like it's about to flourish. I mean, the better part of a year and a half now, you start to see the talent really arise just from the academy of Chelsea, right? From Stamford Bridge. And now, let me walk it back, because I was one of the ones that said that firing or sacking Super Frankie Lampard was a mistake, and I was emotional, all right?
I was emotional.
I love Super Frankie.
I was just about to tell you.
A lot. I didn't like him in your Baby Blues, but he still scored. He still scored excellent goals.
I like how you were in that glass case of emotion, because we went through all those Anchorman cuts right now. You did wonderful, Wags.
I'm trying to follow, right? I mean, I got a little bit of experience here with television, but no, to myself, I mean, I was one that thought that bringing Tuchel over was a little bit of a mistake. I thought Frankie Lampard just needed a little bit more time to figure out his squad. But look at what Tuchel has done now. He has taken this squad from ninth. They were ninth in the EPL just over 4 months ago, and now they're continuing to make a run at dominance, just being able to contend and qualify for Champions League next year, right? And now, Justin, let's talk about it. The best football, the best soccer in the world might just be coming from the island of England, but the island of Great Britain. I mean, thank you.
I think it's been coming from the Prem for quite some time now. And don't get me wrong, the top tier, I mean, the Cristianos and the Messis of the world, yes, they applied their trades in other leagues, Spain, Italy, respectively, but pound for pound, team for team, talent-wise, it has all been in the Prem. And this year, they've finally been able to all put it together. Pep's put it together. He's been able to get City to the final. Tuchel, somehow, some way, getting fired from PSG, and then, getting the victory.
But he also had success at PSG, too. Let's not forget.
Yeah, he had success.
He's got some hardware.
He got them there to the final, but he couldn't get them the victory. This year, it could be really different because of the way Chelsea's playing. I will even admit that Conte, I'm surprised nobody brought him up earlier, but he has been fantastic. That guy has been amazing since he played for Leicester City and won them the championship, and he's really changed where the championship flows in the Prem, because he won it with Chelsea right after he left. And now you're seeing him do it not just on an elite level, but at a high Champions League competition level.
I'm glad you brought up N'Golo Kante, because to me, he was definitely, player of the match over the past 3 matches, right? Especially going into that Real Madrid match, really dominated and controlled. So we brought up Alex Ring, like what would happen if Alex Ring were to leave, Austin FC?
Oh, definitely.
It would be a demise if N'Golo Kante left Chelsea, because he covers so much of that midfield. And then not when he's back checking in my hockey note here, when he's marking back, right, and coming back and shutting down the counter runs, he covers so much of the field, right? And then that's what you're going to get with Kante, right? But what the bonus is what he's been doing over the past 3 matches, right? Being able to take the ball coming from midfield from Jorginho and then making a turn and then creating an offensive striking opportunity.
those goals, that goal created by that goal that went to Warner, that went to Timo Werner there.
That's
was
no
basically,
goal.
Oh, come on, that was a
That's
post.
a little
That was a
like,
post.
let me run, and then let me just put my little head in.
That was Havrick's goal by all means, right?
That
was
guy,
Havrick's goal.
Timo Werner, is not a goal scorer.
Dude,
I had some dude on Twitter tell me he's
I'm
like a
with
number
you.
9. And I'm like, no, that's impossible because number 9s can finish. And Timo Werner had not been finishing with any consistency whatsoever. He desperately needed the goal that he was able to score. But you saw that, it was just like, eh.
No, I'm with you there, and I think too, which brings up another good question that we can talk about, right? Like, why is Pulisic not being in the starting 11? I think he's shown.
That's a good question.
He's proven to Tuchel.
He's better than
in and out.
Chicharito, let me say that.
It's not just that; he's better than Warner. Like, he came in, he subbed for Warner there. Let's just go ahead and admit that Warner might have been a mistake signing him on. Now, where do we go from here? Does Haaland come over? Especially now with Aguero saying that Kun Aguero's given that bold proclamation that not only am I going to stay with Manchester City, but we're going to win more championships, more hardware with Manchester City.
Well, I mean, I know we got to get going. We have to get into our final segment here, but let me just say, Wags, because I do have it. And this was provided to me by the fine people in Far, Texas, this very sour beer right here. Next time it's going to be champagne. But for you, my friends at Manchester City, thank you for finally getting to the final, baby.
For myself, I have a Flavor Country by
All right, well,
Austin Beer
congratulations. This is the last cheers you'll get from me, buddy. I'll see you in the final, though. So we'll see how our teams pan out, but cheers.
Do we become
Salud.
enemies? Salud? Prost? Do we become enemies right now?
Not yet.
No? That is just a can of deliciousness right
No,
there.
I never had this before. This is actually really good. Thank you, guys. This was excellent. Well, hey, Eric, we got to let you go, my man, but thank you again for jumping on board with us throughout this show. Next time, we hope that you can join us in studio and you can have one of these beers.
But you got to win,
absolutely,
Eric.
man. Thank you for having me again, and hope we can do this again, and thank you, man.
All right, man. It was a really good time. Don't forget, you can follow him on We Are Austin TV. You can follow him on Twitter at Primo_512. It is Eric Morales from We Are Austin TV once again. Thanks again, man. All right, so we have one of my really favorite guests coming on board. Wags, you're already familiar with this man, but if you don't know him, he is the co-host of Fight Night ATX. Cinco de Mayo, it does ring for the week of the fights, and this is one of my most favorite times of the year. It is none other than my good friend. He is the one, the only, and I think I'm doing this right, Eddie Cross.
Eddie Wright Cross.
How's it going, Justin?
Eddie, is good to have you along for the ride. Eddie, Adam Wagner from the Wagner Wire is here with me.
Hey, Wags.
What's up, Eddie? How you doing, brother?
I'm good. You?
Oh, living the dream, man.
Thanks again for joining us here on Club Deportes en Inglés. ¿Tú hablas español, Eddie?
Un poco.
Okay. Well, you don't need to use it for this show, but we do have it in Español as well. So we might want to get your insight there at one time as well. I know, I have brought you on here to primarily talk about boxing, but I know you love UFC, and I don't really follow it a lot, but maybe you can give me a couple of minutes of what the ATX Fight Night ATX does with you and Jordan, and where they can find you on the horn. And then if you can kind of give me an idea of what's going on in UFC really briefly here, because I have some topics in boxing that I want to get to you about.
Okay. Well, we've been covering combat sports, mostly MMA and boxing, since like 2013, I think. Start over on the iHeart stations, and now we're on the horn. And we come on every week, give you a rundown of last week's big, mostly UFC events. But there's also Bellator and PFL and boxing. Then we kind of catch you up on what's going on this next coming week. So when you go out to watch the fights, which we can finally do again, you will be smarter than that guy sitting next to you at the bar.
Yeah, you and Jordan do a great job. What time do you guys come in on the horn?
Well, normally it's at 7, but in the spring things kind of bounce around a little bit. But Wednesday nights always, and if that's a bad time for you, you can usually catch us podcasted by Tuesday.
Okay, so like I was telling the fans before, look, I'm learning about this whole UFC thing. You probably see the mascot. I don't know if you see our mascot, Chicky Whiskey, over here on camera. But let me ask you.
Chicken Whiskey wants a beer.
I know. Hey, it's a good beer. It's a good beer. I can't blame him. Okay, so I was talking about UFC really quick here, Eddie Cross. Let me know, what should I be looking forward to coming into UFC? The last thing I saw about UFC was the meme where Joe Rogan and everybody's going all crazy because of that big knockout. That was the last big thing I've seen. What should I be looking forward to next?
Well, that would have been UFC 261 a couple of weeks ago, their first big return to a full arena. They had 3 title fights on it. It was an amazing card. You probably won't see one that good the rest of the year.
Wow. So you're
But
saying
coming
card of
up,
the year?
already, yeah. That's going to be really, really hard to beat.
Wow. That's amazing.
But it's a big month in combat sports just in the state of Texas itself, because we'll talk about Canelo in a minute.
Yes, we
But the next weekend in Houston, they're having UFC 262, headlined by a title fight for the vacant lightweight title between Brazil's Charles Oliveira and the USA's Michael Chandler.
Oh,
now,
wow.
unfortunately, Nate Diaz was going to be in the co-main event.
Yeah.
And, everyone loves Nate Diaz and his brother Nick.
I was gonna say,
But
even I
Nate
do,
suffered an
so.
injury. Yeah, Nate suffered an injury this week, so he's pulled off the card. They'll probably have that fight in July.
Oh,
But,
that's a bummer.
yeah,
Are you
still-
going to get your media credentials to get to that fight in Houston?
I've got my credentials. I've been approved. Now I just have to get down there and get tested on Friday and then quarantine and then make it to the Toyota Center on Saturday.
Well, at least they're trying to be safe about it. I can't blame them for that, but I'm glad that you're going to be there in person. I hope to get your insight on that event at the new UFC coming up in Houston.
Definitely excited.
Before we get into the UFC stuff, though, before we get into the big boxing stuff, I have to get everybody's opinion on this very specific topic in boxing. Now, let's run the
Logan Paul.
Yes, my friend, you stole my thunder, but we have the graphic, so let's pull up the graphic. But you've already heard it. It will be on pay-per-view, obviously, but Mayweather versus Logan Paul. They call it an exhibition. I heard that Chad Ochocinco now wants to be a part of the undercard. You might see him fight Matt Barnes, according to TMZ.com. But how do you guys feel as people that like the fight game? I love boxing. I love it more than I love UFC, and I have to be honest about that. But I love the fight game. I love boxing. I cover it. I do broadcasts for it. This doesn't make me feel as bad as I thought it would. But I'm interested to hear what your opinions are. And Wags or Eddie, whichever one wants to tackle it first, let me know what you think about this matchup between Mayweather and Logan Paul.
Yeah, I'm surprised you feel that way because I just feel dirty talking about it.
Yeah. Eddie.
Dirty? That dirty? Am I the only one?
Yeah, did you see their presser today?
Yeah. The I got your hat game, Eddie.
Yes.
Is this real? Like
Oh my
back on
God.
the playground? Am I in 7th grade, 5th grade again? Like,
Exactly. You got
what's going
the
on,
bigger
man?
guy just like picking on the little guy. I mean, it looks ridiculous.
So
I mean, and the worst thing for Logan Paul is that he probably just made this a real fight in Floyd Mayweather's head.
right, exactly. That's where I'm at, and that's where I wanted to
He
go.
might actually train for the next month.
Let me ask you this, Eddie, because I mean, clearly, it looks like it's been a little bit of a circus the past couple of fights with Logan Paul here, and now you're telling me that you want to take a aspiring boxer. Okay, and really his
Is he an
claim to
aspiring
fame.
boxer?
I guess he's aspiring.
Is that what he is?
boxer,
He's-
aspiring fighter. A YouTube sensation that wants to be heralded as a legitimate prize fighter.
Where did he come
right?
from? I thought he was just doing a Mickey Mouse.
Oh,
pads.
See, this is
thing
what
is,
I
you're
thought.
confusing Logan Paul with his brother Jake Paul.
Oh, okay.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jake Paul is the less famous little brother who actually,
riding the
I believe,
coattails.
wants to be a legitimate fighter.
Riding the coattails. Okay, but anyways,
Yeah,
you're
and he's
gonna
also
put
a
this
big
guy
YouTube
up against-
sensation.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
So you know more about them than I thought you would.
A little bit.
Unfortunately.
Well, we won't hold that against you.
Yeah,
Eddie,
I'm not
but
holding that
but
against
seriously though, you're going to take this guy up against probably, arguably, one of the greatest fighters, at least in my generation.
All time.
Right?
All
All
time.
time, right?
All time, yeah.
Undefeated, and you want to take this guy who just went, so he just took Pacquiao the distance, or not just took Pacquiao the distance, went the distance with Pacquiao, went the distance with McGregor, right? And then,
not even. He KO'd McGregor.
They KO'd McGregor in the 10th round,
He has
correct?
soft hands and he KO'd McGregor.
And so now you're telling me that you're going to put someone of this caliber up that's not even McGregor's caliber, you're going to put him up against the greatest fighter of all time. I'm not buying it.
Yeah.
It's a circus. It's a stunt.
It is a complete money grab. They're just hoping that like maybe 2 million of Logan Paul's 25 million followers, or however many, pay the money to watch this fight. And then, boom, they're both in the money.
Yeah,
it's a
you
huge
said-
cash grab. It's a big circus.
You said the magic words. It's all about the money. They're going to have tons of views from Logan Paul's camp, and obviously, as much as the haters want to say it, the Mayweather people are still going to be watching because it's their boy out of retirement one last time to show off an exhibition under the lights. And you'll still get the whole clinic with all the razzmatazz and everything that surrounds a big-time Floyd fight. And you know they're going to do it big because both of these guys do pull in the views. And is it great for the sport of boxing? No, it's not great for the sport. You want to see a legitimate fight, one that's going to be well contested, something that's going to be fight of the year caliber. But in a sense, will it possibly draw more viewers and new viewers to the sport in a sport that has been hurting with the audience ever since UFC has started? I don't hate it that much because I know those young kids prefer UFC as opposed to boxing. If it takes Logan Paul getting in the ring to pique their interest in the sport, I'm all for it.
And unfortunately, today's stupidity will only drive those numbers up.
Exactly. But hopefully, you know, we get some legitimate fans out there that start kind of researching the history, kind of like I did, and go back in time because boxing does have a lengthy, wonderful history of great pugilists throughout the years, and not just from and not just from America, but from Argentina, from Italy, from England, and there's it's just such a beautiful sport, brutal but beautiful once you do the history and the research.
Well, one of the worst things about this fight is now that the actually legitimate fight that was taking place that weekend, Teofimo Lopez versus George Kambosos.
I know.
That was going to happen on Saturday, and now they're thinking of moving it because the Paul Mayweather fight has gotten so big, which is going to be the next day on Sunday, also in the Miami area, that now they're not sure if they're actually going to hold it at the same time.
Yeah, that's tough to contend with because Teofimo Lopez, I mean, you talk about one of those up-and-comers, kind of like King Ryan. Those guys are legit. I love watching them fight, but there's no way they're going to draw more views than what Mayweather and Logan Paul can. And they got to make their money too.
And if you're fighting for dollars that one weekend, that makes it much worse.
Yeah, that's not the weekend to do it. All right, so I'm glad that I was able to get you guys' opinion on that. Obviously, we're both sit in different camps, so to speak, on Logan Paul.
Now I need a shower.
And now you need a shower. Let me talk about Andy Ruiz real quick. He had his comeback fight after dropping the belt against Anthony Joshua. You see him here in the preview. I don't know if you see him, Eddie, but he looks great. He lost a lot of weight. He is training now with Canelo's trainer in Eddie Reynoso, the trainer of the year. He got knocked down in this fight. He got back up against, you know, a much older Chris Arreola. Arreola was supposed to be that first Mexican descent heavyweight champion. He just wasn't able to fulfill the prophecy. Andy Ruiz ended up doing that first. But Chris Arreola, I mean, he's a much older fighter. You hear it in the Rocky movies, but it does hold true. Those old fighters, they tend to have one last great fight in them. And when he knocked him down, I really thought Arreola might get one more title shot because he was able to get Ruiz in danger, and I thought he might have been able to pull off the win. But the one thing that doesn't get talked about enough for Andy Ruiz, even though he lost the heavyweight championship of the world back to Anthony Joshua, is the guy can take a punch. The guy's got a chin. But how do you guys feel about his performance, as our mascot here, Chicky Whiskey, also wants to butt in on this conversation? But let me ask you all, how do you guys feel about seeing the return of Andy Ruiz, and would you want to see him in a higher profile fight?
I thought, Eddie, can I take first stab? Can I take
Go for
first
it.
stab at this? I thought it was tremendous.
Okay.
Coming back, you know, I thought, you know, you lose to a guy like Joshua, that could be a career ender sometimes, right? I mean, but to see this guy come back and not only, you know, what you kind of compared him to, you know, our generation of Butterbean, right? But now he's more than that. He's showing you that, especially when he can trim down on the weight and get lean, he can go, you know, the distance with almost anybody, or with some of the best, some of the, you know, the best heavyweights now. You'd think that maybe this guy has a shot, and you'd love to see the return to the ring.
He wasn't in peak shape, and he went the distance in the second time against Joshua, even though he was a punching bag for most of the fight. What says you, Eddie?
For Ruiz last weekend. It was the fact that he showed commitment. He came in shape because basically he embarrassed himself that second Joshua fight. He didn't train seriously. His weight skyrocketed. And it was just kind of an embarrassment. You wondered if he would actually be able to come back from that kind of showing. So to be able to come back and go the distance, look as good as he did, get knocked down and get back up. You know, it wasn't his best showing, and he'll still need 2 to 3 more fights before he gets a title shot, most likely. But it was showed that he's actually on the path and serious about it. And he claimed he wants to be the heavyweight Canelo. So with that in his mind, that's good for the future.
He definitely has the hand speed to do it. He's a big guy who has power, fast hands, good chin, and he has the tutelage of Eddie Reynoso now. He looks to be serious. And that's going to be the question, can he sustain that seriousness? Because he won the heavyweight championship like we all saw. He let himself go. He said he was getting in shape for the rematch. It was a total Rocky III moment where he just completely just bamboozled himself because he didn't know what he was doing, and he just never got set. He never got serious. But it's good to see him back. I'm curious about what you guys think. I would like to see him face Wilder or Ortiz next, just to see these two guys slug it out and see who deserves a heavyweight title shot.
I don't know if he's ready.
You don't think he's ready?
I don't know if he. I don't know if he.
This
can
guy won the
it.
heavyweight championship of the world.
But I don't know if he can go
against Anthony Joshua. You're telling me he's not ready for Wilder?
I think Wilder actually is a more difficult matchup for him.
He's so one-dimensional, and I love Wilder because he's from Alabama, from the United States, heavyweight champion, first one in a long time when he won the belt to be from America. But everybody seems to think that he's a one-punch guy.
I think Wilder's got heavy hands, man, and
he has them. It's the great equalizer.
He's got one punch mentality. He's got one punch ability to put you to the mat and put you to sleep and crucify you. I think it's a tough matchup for him.
Who would you like to see?
I'd like to see the Ortiz fight because if I'm Wilder, I just wait for my rematch because he's got a contracted rematch against Tyson Fury that hasn't happened yet.
No, we need to see that fight. We need to have that fight.
Now, I think he needs to fight beforehand, but if I'm him, I'd probably just wait. And give me Ruiz, as dangerous as he is, when you want to be fighting for the title, that's a big step. That's just a big case for a letdown.
Yeah, but we've already seen that he can do it. And it's just like, can he be serious now? I know you can. It's easy to win the title. It's hard to defend it. And that's always been the saying, right?
And that's why if I'm Wilder, I don't take the Ruiz fight. He waits for all the marbles and let Ruiz figure himself out.
Well, as we know in the sport of boxing, and they're not getting any younger, and we've already seen some major super fights not take place because of promotions or the boxers just get too old. And talking about one of those super fights, and we're going to get into Canelo here, his upcoming fight here in just a little bit more, but you think back to the two fights he had with Triple G. If he fights Triple G when Triple G is a couple of years younger, maybe Triple G walks through every single throw that Canelo is trying to throw and just dominates him like he was doing to other guys in his division at the time. But since he got him a couple, a little long in the tooth, he was able to eke out the decision and then get the win in the second fight.
Yeah, he's really following the Floyd Mayweather playbook lately, not just with the way that he kind of picked those opponents, but also with the way he's fighting nowadays. And his defense is much improved. It's people always say stick and move, but fighters always forget the move part.
Yeah.
He's now mastered the move part. His defense is great. And that's going to make it really tough for Saunders this weekend.
We talked about Lomachenko in the past, but would you argue that right now, speaking that, and there's a lot of great fighters out there. I like Godzilla Inoue. He's amazing at that lower class fighting level. But when you're talking about pound for pound, best fighter in the world, it's got to be Canelo right now. He's the only one that I've seen that's been able to put everything together, his offense and defense. His counter game's there, his power's there, and he's got a chin.
Exactly. He can go the distance. He's got enough power. I mean, he's not a knockout artist, but especially with his body shots, he can take people down pretty quickly.
Yeah, so let's talk about Canelo and the Saunders fight as he's going to be taking on Saunders. Yeah, this is going to be coming up this weekend. I'm looking forward to it. This is what Cinco de Mayo week is all about, the big fights that come up on the weekend. And yes, I know it was about the Battle of Puebla and they beat the French. I know what Cinco de Mayo is about. But you see the tail of the tape right here. Saunders, 1 year older, has less fights, has less wins, but hasn't lost yet. He has the reach advantage. He's taller. He's also a southpaw. And the British, they're having kind of a renaissance when it comes to boxing. We've seen a lot of great fighters coming across the pond here lately that have had some success. But again, this is Canelo Alvarez. One of the big things coming into the week has been about the ring size. Saunders wanting the bigger ring. He has good speed. Alvarez in his camp obviously wanting a smaller, more compact ring for the Mexican champion. But how do you see this fight playing out? what will make this an exciting fight for you? And most importantly, I think I'm okay to say this: does Saunders have a chance to win? Wags, what do you think? Not one chance.
Nah, and I think the tail of the tape right there was.
You just shook your head like, no.
Like, you know, you could say that the Brits are having a great renaissance with prize fighting or whatever, but it's going to come to a standstill, or it's going to come to a deadly halt right now. He's not going to know what hit him. Canelo's going to come out firing on all cylinders, and let's talk about it, right? The tail of the tape for me on that graphic was 28 more fights. Okay, that's 28 more different opponents that Canelo has been able to see. Thank you very much right there. You can see it, right, as the graphics are taken full here. It doesn't, and still, what, the age differential is still one to the good with on Canelo here. So he's got the youth and he's got the experience. And to me, you know, you give me opportunity equals reps for me in terms of fantasy sports, fantasy football, when I'm playing the numbers here. Give me Canelo all day and every day, baby.
What do you think?
Yeah, and the one thing that tail of the tape doesn't show you is the level of competition that Canelo's faced in the last 5-10 years, as opposed to what Saunders has faced. And this is a huge leap up for Saunders, competition-wise.
Yeah, and that's why he's wanting that bigger ring. He wants to try to utilize some of that speed that he has and try to make this a better fight. He obviously is the bigger fighter. I think using some of his length would be to his advantage in order to get, you know, at least go the distance against Canelo. But like we've already talked about before, Canelo would be a little difficult, and he's just a much different machine to go against just because he has been so good. And one of the things that we mentioned with Andy Ruiz, but I didn't mention it with Canelo so far, is that yes, he is trained by Eddie Reynoso, the best trainer in boxing right now. And if he can't figure it out on his own, his adjustment game is starting to get better, kind of Mayweather-like. If he doesn't figure it out on his own, I think Reynoso will have him set up to win this fight if he does get in any trouble.
Yeah, and the one thing that I think is funny is, to me, it seems like the larger ring might work against Saunders because Canelo's defense is so good already. You don't want to give him more space to move.
Yeah,
and you're the larger guy.
You're
the larger guy. You've got the bigger reach. You've got a great jab. Why do you want to give him more space to get away from you?
Man, we have all fans all over the place, man.
Counterproductive.
Okay. I like it, man. It's kind
you
of like
never know what's going to happen on Club Deportes in English.
Canelo, they love it, man. I'm with them.
I'm with them. Obviously, you can hear it here. It's a pro-Canelo crowd. Canelo will take it home on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
I think we can all say that for sure. Eddie, I want to thank you again. Hey, tell the people one more time where they can find you on the horn before we let you go.
You can find us on the podcast page, usually by Tuesday afternoons, but we will air on Wednesdays after the daily shows, usually 7, sometimes depending on
maybe one show called Sports Guys Talking Wrestling, maybe?
Right before Sports Guys Talking Wrestling, which every once in a while I'll hop on to complain about Vince McMahon.
You're not a bad guy. We like having you on, part of the trio tag team.
Love it. And no one else I get to nerd out with.
Yes, we go by the demolition rule.
Nice.
You know, that's how we do it.
Nice.
Yes, but so you can find him and Jordan Wahlberger on Fight Night ATX. You can follow Eddie on Twitter at Eddie EDDIE _ or no EDDIEX like Eckies and then experience, right?
Yes.
Experience with the X.
Eddie Experience, 1 E in the middle. And you can find me and Jordan both at Fight Night ATX on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Hey, man, I really enjoy you coming on to talk. One of the sports that I really love that I really don't feel gets enough talk on Sports Talk. So to talk some boxing with you, I hope we get to do it again. You know, 16 de September is not too far away. We're going to have another big fight card.
Hey, my pleasure. And before I go, so you guys know, don't turn away from Club Deportes. But right now, the PFL is on ESPN2. Friday night, Bellator will be on Showtime, where you've got Juan Archuleta versus Sergio Pettis for the bantamweight title.
That'd be a good one.
And then Saturday, it's UFC on ESPN. With that card keeps changing, so I'm not even going to get into who's on it.
I was like, where do you find the free time when you got to cover all this stuff, my man? Well, we'll catch up with you, and we'll get the follow-ups from those fights later on at some point.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
See you, Eddie.
There he is again, y'all. Eddie Cross on 104.9 The Horn, Fight Night ATX. Thank you again for joining us. And my friends, we are at that time. That's going to do it. Man, the hour goes by so fast. Hey, Adam Wagner, thank you again for joining me on our 5th voyage of Club Deportes en Inglés. Number 5 has been a really happy show. Tell the people how they can find you once again on the social media web pages and where to find you on the Horn.
Well, pleasure to be here as always, man. I look forward to coming on in the future as well. But you can find me on Twitter at @NotTheFakeWags. It's kind of like a tribute to Not the Real or Not the Fake SVP, Scott Van Pelt there, one of my favorite sports broadcast journalists in the business right now. But also you can find me, you can listen to my show on the Horn, 1049, 1019, AM 1260. You stream it live at hornfm.com, and it's from 9 a.m. till 12 noon on Sundays. But you can also go to the WagnerWire.com and see some of the streams that I do. Also, I like to hit the sticks, too. I like to play a little bit of video games as well. Get that Call of Duty Warzone and some FIFA 21 as well. You can find me on Twitch at Wags0369 as well. It's always a party wherever I go, man.
Well, man, that's what I like about you. I'm glad that you're coming on. We had a big party. You're a big reason why we had that party. And I'm going to have to join you on the sticks one of these days and play some FIFA 21 and see how that game is going.
All right.
I hope as I'm good as big as I talk. We'll see how it goes. And my friends, that's going to do it for today's show. You can go back and follow everything on the Club Deportes channel on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Club Deportes. As for me, you can follow me on Twitter at The Smash Simmons. You can find me on Instagram there as well. So for everybody involved in tonight's broadcast, and a big thanks to everybody that joined on, for Wags, for Eric, for Ben, for Eddie, Smash. We'll see you next week right here on Club Deportes en Inglés.